So let's say you're looking at a Citroen C3 Aircross, but you want something a bit more premium, or perhaps you want an alternative to an Audi Q2 or a Mini Countryman. Well, say hello to the brand new DS3 Crossback.
Striking, isn't it? The look may not be for everyone, but one thing is for certain, this will turn heads. So on the looks department, I personally think it has the Q2 and the Countryman beaten. The DS3 Crossback also has them beaten on price as well, as the base model starts from £21,555, which is cheaper than both rivals while still offering a good amount of equipment. What's included though? Even the base model, named the Elegance, offers a good amount of features, including 17-inch alloys, flush fitting door handles, 7-inch touchscreen, DAB radio, Bluetooth, smartphone connectivity, air conditioning, rear parking sensors and safety pack, to name a few. The model seen here is the Prestige though, which is likely to be the best selling trim and starts from £24,955. This trim level adds navigation, 10-inch touchscreen, front parking sensors, climate control, keyless start and black leather seats, although it's worth noting that the car seen here does have a few optional extras, so some features you will see may not be standard, such as this head-up display.
There are a choice of 4 engines available, 3 petrol and 1 diesel. There's also an all-electric version coming later this year, which is called the E-Tense. That will be 100% electric. The engine I have is the 1.2 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged Puretech petrol, the Puretech 100. It's called the Puretech 100 because it produces 101 horsepower. I suppose 100's got a better ring to it. It's mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox, the only gearbox you can have for this engine. In regard to performance, you'll hit 62 miles per hour in 10.9 seconds and continue to a top speed of 112 miles per hour. But I imagine a lot of you watching this video aren't too fussed about performance. You want to know more about how the car drives and whether it is comfortable. Well, I'm going down here on the M4 at 60 miles per hour, and I have to say this car is comfortable despite riding on big alloys. And I almost forgot to say, this DS3 is the first Group PSA car to be built on the common modular platform. Okay, that is a bit nerdy, but basically what it means is that this platform, it gives better refinement and it also enables the Group PSA team to make a car that can be diesel, petrol and electric. So if you were to buy the electric version of this car would not be altered in any shape or form. And what I mean by that is you wouldn't get a smaller boot or you wouldn't have to sacrifice any space, because this platform has been built in mind for electrification. Now, as I'm going down the motorway, let me speak about refinement. Well, it's pretty good. It's quiet in here. I don't feel like I need to shout at you. In fact, I'm probably talking a bit too loudly, in all honesty, so let me hush my tone a little bit. There is a little bit of tyre noise coming into the cabin, but by no means is it really loud or deafening. Wind noise is pretty well controlled, so I imagine this car would be pretty easy to drive on a long distance with no concerns. Now, DS states that this car is built for the city but also for longer journeys, and I can definitely see where the brand is coming from, because let's face it, this car is really built to go in and around town, but on the motorway it feels just fine, which is surprising. Well, not that surprising, but I wasn't expecting the engine to have quite this much oomph to it.
The Puretech 100 performs well, but is it frugal? Depending on the trim level, this engine offers between 46 and 52 mpg on a combined run, and it emits between 105 and 113 grams per kilometre of CO2 emissions.
This is the baby engine. Now, in regards to the other petrol engines, you can either have a Puretech 130, which produces around 130 horsepower, or you can have the Puretech 155, which produces 155 horsepower. Those two engines are mated to the 8-speed automatic exclusively, Whereas, as I've mentioned, this engine is mated to the 6-speed manual, which the changes aren't too bad. They are a little bit long in my opinion, but this isn't a sports car, it's a family SUV. So if you're expecting short, snappy gear changes, you're obviously looking in the wrong segment. But the changes are pleasant enough. They are better than some of the other Group PSA cars I've driven. The gearbox isn't quite as notchy. And the changes, on the whole, are pretty pleasant. At no point have I felt this car is underpowered or that it would be dangerous to attempt an overtake. And it's quite a flexible engine despite not having that much oomph on paper. It makes quite a nice noise as well because you get that nice 3-cylinder thrum as you drive along. But when you're cruising, the engine is refined, civilized, and simply fades into the background seamlessly, which again really helps to bring home the premium aspect of this car. A lot of you will think, well, it's just a jumped up Citroen, and yes, of course DS can trace its roots back to Citroen, but DS is a different entity. It's all about the avant-garde and the other phrases they were banding about in their presentation before I got into the car, the savoir-faire, which I've pronounced completely wrong. But it's all about, DS is a brand that uses its heritage but at the same time looks forward. So you get the traditional French style but with the advanced technology that buyers want from today's cars. And I think the DS3 Crossback is a good illustration of that. There's plenty of style in here. Okay, some may find the interior detailing a little bit fussy, but I must admit I do quite like it. Now, one thing I'm not a massive fan of though is all of the controls in here. They aren't buttons as such, they are touch sensitive. So they do look like buttons, but everything you touch in here, well, almost everything you touch is touch sensitive. And maybe I'm a little bit old fashioned, but I prefer to have the proper manual analog feel of actually pressing a button and feeling it kind of pushing and then, you know, bounce out as you lift your finger away from it. Now, one of the drawbacks of designing a car for comfort is it is a bit roly-poly in the bends, and as much as these seats are very nice and very comfortable, they're not doing that much to hold me in place. But again, this car is not designed for handling, it's designed for comfort and to provide a luxury element to the small SUV segment, which I think this car does. The steering has actually got quite a nice weight to it. It feels relatively meaty. However, it's still light enough to make the car easy to manoeuvre, but the steering has got quite a nice weight to it. Okay, the feedback isn't overly consistent, but to be fair, that is a trait that I've experienced in other PSA group cars, so this doesn't come as any surprise to me.
The DS3 Crossback is doing quite well, but it isn't all perfect. The boot, with a capacity of 350 litres, is far from minuscule, but it is smaller than the Q2 and the Countryman, which offer respective boot sizes of 405 litres and 450 litres. The boot is so-so then, but what about rear space?
As always, the driver's seat has been set for me. I'm 6'2", so I am of course a taller chap. The space back here is okay, it's not outstanding, but I wouldn't go so far to call it awful. Knee room is average at best, but leg room is pretty agreeable, and I can fit my feet underneath the seat in front of me. In regard to headroom, I've got a few centimetres left over, so that is pretty good. Now, could you fit 3 people in the back? Well, 3 adults, no, I think it would be a bit of a struggle. Of course, this is a small SUV, so the middle seat is quite slim, and you've also got a sizable transmission tunnel going through the middle as well. So I think really if you want to put adults back here, it's probably best served as a 2+2, but if you want to put children back here, then it should be absolutely fine.
Time to talk about safety. This is an area where the DS3 Crossback does well, as it offers standard features such as 6 airbags, autonomous emergency braking, lane keep assist, lane departure warning, speed limit recognition and intelligent speed adaptation. This car is yet to be crash tested by Euro NCAP, but I bet my bottom dollar it will be awarded 5 stars. However, you can select more safety features such as blind spot monitoring, high beam assist, active cruise control, plus more to give you even more peace of mind.
So you now join me in their Premiere Edition, which is the launch edition for this car and is only available until around September this year. It starts from just below £34,000, but this one does have the optional paintwork and the optional vocal sound system. So this car I'm sat in is just above £34,000. It's around 34.5.
So what exactly do you get for the La Premiere trim? As standard, you get 18-inch alloys, Premiere safety pack including DS driver assist, wireless phone charging, head-up display, pearl stitching, LED headlights and sumptuous burgundy Napa leather seats. Ooh, they are nice.
This car is a different trim level, of course, to the Prestige I drove earlier, and this also has a different engine. So it is still the 1.2 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine, but this is the Puretech 155. Therefore, it has 155 horsepower with 240 Newton meters of torque. This power is mated to an 8-speed automatic gearbox, and in regard to performance, you'll hit 62 miles per hour in 8.2 seconds. And in regard to top speed, that is 129 miles per hour. So how does this engine, this car, compare to the one I drove earlier? Well, for starters, of course, this has more performance, it's much more peppy, and it's got quite a strong level of performance, to be honest. The automatic gearbox was a little bit slow to wake up there, but the changes on the whole are pretty smooth. You don't really notice them too much. Yeah, those changes are pretty slick and pretty smooth. Now, of course, you do have paddles on the steering wheel if you want to take over yourself. So it's changed down like so. And then change up. Yeah, don't really notice the change happening.
Needless to say, the Puretech 155 offers a good amount of oomph, but what are the running costs like? Depending on the trim level, this engine offers between 41.7 and 45.7 mpg on a combined run, and it emits between 121 and 128 grams per kilometre of CO2 emissions.
So what about the other aspects of this car compared to the Prestige I drove earlier with the Puretech 100 engine? Well, this car is on bigger alloys. This car is on 18-inch alloys, whereas the Prestige was on 17 inches. And the ride is a little bit firmer, as you would expect. Would I call it uncomfortable? No, I wouldn't. Yes, the ride is a little bit more busy, and I probably would urge you to stick with a trim level with 17-inch alloys. But I don't feel like I'm being thrown around everywhere like a jelly falling down a flight of stairs. I've no idea why, but that's the first metaphor that came to my head. But you get you get what I mean. So yes, the ride is a little busier and it's not quite as compliant, but I wouldn't say it's particularly firm. Okay, that bit was a little bit firm. The car disproving me there, but the cabin was a little bit disturbed, but the suspension sorted itself out pretty quickly. The damping is pretty decent. So I've got no real concerns. And of course you've got these sumptuous leather seats. I think the word sumptuous was created for these kind of seats. They are wonderful to sit in. They are really nice. And I have to say, now I know this is subjective, but I think the burgundy leather is a really nice contrast to the grey paintwork on the outside. I must admit, I don't know what this paintwork is called. Let me quickly check. Oh, it's called Platinum Grey. Platinum Grey is the name of this colour. I think I prefer the Imperial Gold, but this is quite a nice colour, contrasted by the burgundy Napa leather interior inside, of course, and on the outside you've got the black alloys. This is quite a nice spec. Now, in all honesty, do you need to spend this much on a DS3 Crossback? No, in all honesty, if I were on the market for a car like this, I honestly think the Prestige would be the best one to go for, and DS predicts that it will be the best selling trim level. Now, I'll tell you one thing that's really intricate about the interior of this car. It's got this special pearl stitching, which apparently took a year to perfect before DS could roll it out on its cars, and it's a really nice touch, really intricate, and you can tell that there has been a good amount of attention to detail that's gone into this car. Very stylish. It's a very nice place to be. Lots of soft touch materials. I really like the layout of the buttons down here. Some may say it's fussy, and okay, I can kind of see why, but I like the interior. It's interesting. I think if you were to pick up one of your mates or whoever, it's a good conversation starter, because the inside doesn't really look like anything else in its segment. So to sum up, the DS3 Crossback, it's very stylish, it's comfortable, it's got a good amount of kit. So I really think this is a worthy alternative to an Audi Q2 or a Mini Countryman. And what I like about the DS3 Crossback, it's different, it's unique, it's individual. It will stick out in the car market for a good reason. And I quite like it, I must admit. It's a very nice companion in which to go about town. I personally wouldn't have one with 18-inch alloys, because the ride in this particular car is okay, it's not too bad. But it is, yeah, it is a little bit more jiggly, so I would recommend sticking with the 17-inch alloys, unless you can put up with a busier ride. But overall, my first impressions of the DS3 Crossback are positive. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If so, give it a massive thumbs up. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click that bell so you get notified every time I make a video. And if you aren't subscribed, guys, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe for more car obsession.